आप कंडक्ट कर रहे हैं?
जी हुजूर माल साहब गए हुए ज़रा आज दौरे पे, तो मुझे रिक्वेस्ट की थी. Right. Assalamu alaikum हुजूर.
वालेकुम सलाम.
हुजूर this.
अगर आप, if you can conduct this meeting,
जी.
like your son does in the children's class.
Right. So he's probably better than me. He's probably better than me. That's right. MashaAllah.
You should feel satisfied that you've done well. Huh?
Indeed. Jazakallah. Huzoor, this morning we have 5 guests. We have Mr. Abdul Rahman. Abdul Rahman is from Ghana.
Nigeria.
Sorry, Nigeria. I am sorry, Nigeria. And Abdul Rahman is studying here, is doing a degree course in Westminster College University, and he is studying for a course in business studies. Then we have Masood Ahmed Arthur Sahib, who is the secretary of the Pan-African Association in the United Kingdom. Then we have Richard Briscoe. Richard is a student at the Roehampton Institute and is training to be a teacher, and his specialist subjects are history and English literature. And then we have Habibur Rahman Sahib. Habibur Rahman Sahib is from Ghana and is currently undertaking private religious studies in the United Kingdom and hoping to return to Ghana to start a school there. And then we have Mr. Rajab Ali, who has just recently retired as a teacher and is now devoted most of his time to the Jamaat. So I would then request Abdul Rahman to please kind of start.
Right now, America and Britain, they are ready to start bombing Iraq. President Yeltsin said if America continues with its aggression, it might lead to world war. Do you see any world war coming on? Do you see any world war coming on?
Any world war? President Yeltsin has said that if America continue with the aggression, there's possibility that world war could take place.
You see, this is just a lip service to the cause of Iraq by Yeltsin. Unless he does something by gathering the forces with him which may deter American move, this is just a talk. What he could have done or should have done much before was to defy the decisions which stop bargaining with Iraq. Russia should have sent her ships to negotiate commerce, trade, etc., whatever it is, with Iraq, and America would not dare bombard their ships. And the plea which Yeltsin could have taken was, you do the same with Israel, while Israel is not complying with the United Nations decisions. So if you do not bombard Israel, if I will do not bombard your ships trading with Israel, why should you bombard our ships? It could have been a beautiful argument in favor of Iraq employed by Yeltsin. But no such thing has ever been done. No such thing has ever been contemplated. So it is just, I think, for the time being, it seems lip service. Russia would not be ready for a Third World Great War by many years to come, I think. And all the forces which could be mustered for this purpose include China, Japan, Korea, etc., etc. They should have negotiated, this issue should have been negotiated with them, and if they had made a pole, an opposite pole, then the Third World would be avoided, of course. They would prepare for the Third World. This is the only way to avoid Third World War. Huh?
So next, Masood Ahmed Arthur.
Yes, please, my question centers on, a verse or a surah I read from in this Quran.
Verse or surah, you can't make differentiate.
Surah al-Qadr.
Surah Laylatul Qadr.
I'm sorry, Laylatul Qadr.
That's right.
During the Ramadan.
That's
I came across some few verses. I don't understand, and I think you will be the best to throw some more light on
did
it.
you listen to my sermon on this Surah Laylatul Qadr?
Honestly, I haven't heard of that.
So you better
Yeah.
first hear that video recorded sermon,
Yeah.
because it took me more than an hour to explain many things which might have been stirring your mind, your heart,
I see.
right?
Yes. Okay.
So you better first do that and then we'll see.
All right.
Next, I'll request Richard Briscoe to please put his question.
Richard, by the way, which nationality do you belong to? British?
I was actually born in England. My mother is Filipino. My father is French, Italian, and English. Pure.
That explains the complexion and the hair. Yes.
I get mistaken.
Dark hair,
for
very
lots of
dark hair. Yes.
The question I have is, working in education in junior schools, one of the things I've come across is that the celebration of religious festivals in school, that the schools celebrate Christian festivals, but there is no real effort made to celebrate other religious festivals, such as Eid. What's your opinion on this?
I do not think that they should be introduced in the schools. No political government can afford to cater for the needs of various religious groups which live in the territory. It's impossible. So they should opt for one, which has to be the religion of the majority. And for that too, I don't think there should be any problem here. But in other countries there could be a problem as to regard which majority concept should be employed, because there are so many differences. But here, as far as Christianity goes, the celebrations are practically the same, whatever the religious denomination you have. So they should not even think of giving in to the pressures created by Muslims and other such organized groups to have their celebrations introduced in the schools. Then the schools should be closed. If you cater for all the needs of such groups, then all the year round there should be celebrations. Right.
Next, I would request Habibur Rahman Sahib to please put forward his question.
So I have two questions. One, first one is, well, in West Africa, it's very prevalent with mothers being difficult or
traveling is difficult in West Africa? What did you say?
Certain mothers are difficult, in treating the firstborn or the sons. You see, because they say don't do this, don't do that, don't marry yet.
Who says that?
The mothers.
Mothers.
The mothers.
The
mother.
Yes.
No, which mother? I mean, which belong to which religion?
In Ghana and in Nigeria, because sometimes
the religious background of the mother does not matter?
No, this doesn't come. This generally.
This is a general attitude of the mothers.
Of the mothers.
To whichever religious denomination they belong.
Exactly.
Is that correct?
Yeah.
Okay. Now I understand.
Nothing to do with religion here.
Yes.
And well, no matter how the son may try to please the mother says no. Don't go to this woman. Don't this. All right. That is on one side. The other is, how do I reconcile this situation with the Holy Prophet's
practice?
That's right. Sooner that your paradise is at your mother's feet, and those who look after the mother's well, will be on his right-hand side in the hereafter. And
who are the mothers referred to in the that hadith?
In the hadith, it means be kind to your mother.
Correct. But seek your paradise from under the feet of your mother.
Of your mother.
Which mothers are mentioned?
I don't remember particular.
The atheist mothers or freelancers? Which mothers? Jewish mothers, Christian mothers, Hindu mothers?
Here again, generally, Hazu, or your mother,
it can't apply generally because it cannot be implemented then. It's impossible. The wishes...
Biological mother?
No, I'm not talking of biological or others. What I'm saying is, he uses the term mothers in general.
Yeah, that's
in general.
Yes.
And seek your paradise under the feet of your mother.
Mother, yes.
It only means that you should serve them well and treat them with respect. It does not mean that any mother has a right to change the teachings of God. It has not the slightest reference to that. In the lifetime of the Holy Prophet ﷺ, we know one incident where an idolatrous boy turned to the unity of God and accepted Islam, while his mother was a very strong idolatress. She believed in idol worship, and she was so strict in that she would not compromise with a child's new faith, and she remained badgering him with this and that and creating problems and speaking against Rasulullah and Islam and things. Now, in that case, Rasulullah did not advise him to seek paradise from under the feet of this mother.
That's how the terminology
You see,
came.
what he did ultimately was, with which Rasulullah was pleased, because this was the right attitude. He ultimately said to his mother, "Look here, my mother, I love you so much. I respect you for all that you have done for me. I'm so grateful to you for bringing me up in the absence of my father who died early. But if you insist on changing my faith, then I tell you, if you die 100 deaths before me, I will never be able to please you by granting to your wish. I will remain attached to Islam, I will remain attached to the Holy Prophet and to one idea, one God." Now this was the message when he delivered it in these words, which stopped the mother from bothering him anymore. You see?
I see.
This is the meaning of that hadith.
I would have thought that no matter what your mother does, you have to comply.
No,
because
no,
it
not
is
at all.
against anything that you do.
No. Mothers cannot tell their boys to mistreat their wives. Anything. No, they are not the lawmakers. That is the point.
Example, Hazur is a man, who had his father suffer a lot about him, and the child got separated from the mother when he was about 18 months old. And this child had been brought up by the father's mother and relatives. Now, as soon as the child grew up to, started working to be an adult, having a very good work, jobs, the mother reappeared and said the child mustn't look after the father's mother at all, because everything must come back to the mother.
Stupid. Obviously wrong. Such a mother should be told to keep off this.
she has spiritual power and physical, something like that.
How can she have the spiritual power of a child she abandoned while he was only 18 months old?
18 months
Impossible,
old.
no. She is implying the meaning, misimplying the hadith, if she is using that hadith, or other such traditions of Ghana, when she says that the traditions give me this power. He should not care. He should only go for justice.
Exactly. This is what I
That's right.
thought. She had no justice at all.
Also, you should,
See what?
the question is between justice and injustice, right?
Thank you, Hazul.
It appears that when
Are you not yet married?
Yes and no, Hazul. That's a private matter. You know, you remember.
But we are discussing this private matter in the sight of everybody, the whole world.
This is a different matter, Hazul.
Okay, yes. But I would like to hear the good news one day.
I did promise you. You asked about my son the last time.
That's right, yes.
And I did tell you that I would be coming to you, but certain things prevented me.
Right, okay.
Yeah.
Hazur, it appears that when private lives of any politicians or a world leader is scrutinized by the media, these gentlemen end up in a kind of a limbo. They can't make proper decisions. Do you think it's correct then that media has such power?
Example?
Limbo is, Mr. Clinton is one of them.
What?
Mr. Clinton is one of them.
Why don't you discuss him by name? Huh?
Yes. And we had recently, during the last election.
It is a society of dissemblers. They are hypocrites. And this hypocrisy sometimes surfaces and appears so ugly. This is exactly what has happened in the case of Clinton. They all live a life of lie to their partners and others and do not care. If you just examine this AIDS situation in America, the facts and figures would horrify you. And how it spreads. Because when I say how it spreads by disloyalty between husband and wife.
Do you think that media?
What?
Do you think the media has far too much power for its own good?
Yes, that's correct. But the point is that they live with this life of dissemblance and hypocrisy. When it comes to the president, then political powers opposed to the president get into the picture and try to make the political capital out of this. That is all there is to it. Let them fight their battles. But everybody does this in the Western politics. Well, Islam, please. Which has no moral principles to guide them. This is positive now. All the big guns in politics everywhere know that they can do whatever they like in their private life, only they should hide it enough not to come to the surface so that everybody can see that. That's all. He has been doing it, Clinton, throughout, but it was brought to surface by interested people, politically interested people, who wanted to make political capital out of that. I understand this is the only problem there is. Otherwise, everybody knew what his life was. Everybody in America, it was not a secret. Which was suddenly revealed that he has become a vicious person and this and that. All America knew that this man has a lascivious intention and sexually unacceptable behavior if judged by strict moral codes or even loose moral codes. This fact I am saying is well known to the whole of America, and they do not care a fig for that. Even after all this noise, the public opinion judgment has declared that he has become even more popular. See?
That's the essence of Christianity.
Not, it's the same thing is happening in the Muslim world, in Hindu world, in this world, in that world. This is man today. Yes.
And excuse me, do you think he's going to get away with this?
Will you wait for your turn?
Abdul Rahman?
Yes. My second question is, a woman was killed, was executed last week in America.
A woman was killed?
Yeah,
Executed.
Executed,
Executed,
yes, in America, for what she has done. Do you think women should be killed for anything?
His question is, a woman was executed in America recently. He would like to know if you feel that it is correct that women should be executed in that manner.
Why not? If a man should be executed, why not woman? The women themselves claim for equality. All right, let them face this equality.
I was going to ask the same question. May I add something more to it?
Okay.
I mean, in her situation, that Miss Tucker, I learned there was a remorse. After some years, she changed. She became religious, and she regretted for what she did. In the light of that,
in the light of
that,
the law of the land should decide. In the Holy Quran, there is a reference to such a situation, and the Holy Quran, being a very realistic book, says that if a criminal is not caught soon enough, while we cannot be sure whether he has changed his ways or not, and he has abandoned his past life altogether and transformed into a good and better person, then you have no right to catch him. That time is over.
time is over.
See?
Yeah.
So such a woman should have been left to herself if she had already reformed. But if the relatives of the people who had been killed or murdered by this woman discover it much later, that this is the woman who was responsible for this, and they cannot forgive, then the law has to take up this matter in its hands.
In her situation, the relatives of those she murdered, I mean, they were divided. I mean, but some of them were saying the life of that
those
woman.
who want to forgive, they may like to forgive for any reason, but those who want a revenge based on justice, they will have the prior right. Even if one of the relatives demand this, the court of law has to succumb to that pressure. Right?
Has it got a
You see,
correlation?
I don't know, one or two things are so much highlighted in public press, media, television, etc. They all highlight these things about one person. But every day, such criminal acts are perpetrated in America, in every city, every street, that they don't take notice of that. It's just a game. It's just no more than that. It's an attitude of those who mold the press, television, etc., the high media, and they want to play up with such things from time to time to show their influence. Please.
No. Is there a correlation?
Someone is
on the same
no,
subject.
subject afterwards.
Yeah, one of the questions I have is Islam does not separate religion and state. Islam does not separate religion and state, but makes them as one.
Who says that?
Well, that's what I've read.
No.
It's not.
It's not right.
All right, because that's how I understood that the state was one.
I think the question should be that what I have read of the Orthodox Muslims, they believe
that the state and
or I start with this introduction and I'll answer.
Yes, what I have read, that Islam does not separate religion and the state. Is this, I mean, obviously this was started with Muhammad, perhaps. Was he fulfilling something that the Christian church was never able to do? And if so, did he actually see this with the Romans and the Roman church?
First of all, as I said, this premise is not right. The real fact is that Islam is concerned only with religion and moral values, religious and moral values. Whenever it comes to the matter of state, Islam has a very clear injunction that whenever you, O Muslims, govern a people, govern a country, always govern with absolute justice. And absolute justice has no religion, no color, no creed.
As it should be.
This is it. So Islam is so clear on this, so emphatic, that even it reminds the Muslims that if you govern with absolute justice, even the case of those who have been your enemies, who have always treated you with injustice, still when you treat them, you must treat with absolute justice.
As is the case with that execution of the
Exactly. Please.
Now, this executed woman again. You remember Hasu in the hadith when one of the companions of the Holy Prophet came and said to him that one of the enemies surrendered and said he had, he had a change of heart. He's become a Muslim. He's become a believer. And the soldier, the companion, said no, he was telling lies. He didn't believe him, and he executed him. And came and narrated to the Holy Prophet that this was what happened. And the Holy Prophet rebuked him, blamed him. He shouldn't have executed him, because how could he have been sure that he had converted or not?
What is the question?
The question is executing the woman when she said she had become a different person altogether.
This case has no relation, no similarity with the case you're discussing. Absolutely no relation whatsoever. That should be understood properly, what you're just referring to. See, many non-Muslim scholars have blamed Islam for spreading Islam with the help of sword. And they quote such incidents where during a war somebody declares himself to have converted to Islam during that process. The Muslim cannot kill him. This is what has been quoted in favor of their claim that Islam is spread through sword. While such incidents are only few and far between. When Islam conquered Arabia, it did not compel a single Arabian to have converted to Islam, to convert to Islam for the price of his life. Not one. So it's a completely different situation you're talking about.
I see.
And I can explain why. Why this confusion? The fact is that Islam forbids Muslims to kill Muslims. very strongly. If somebody is a Muslim, although it forbids Muslims to kill anyone without justice, but to kill a Muslim becomes a double crime, because you are bonded to him like a brother.
Yes.
And you have vowed that you treat the Muslim society as a society as if born from your own mother. Huh? Now, this is the reason, this is the thing which Hazrat Rasulullah always highlighted. He said, it is possible that somebody, out of fear for his life, might have changed his religion. It's not impossible. But it is impossible for you to peep into his heart.
Yeah.
It is far more impossible. And far more, it is impossible for you to peep into his heart, and it is possible for him to tell a lie.
Yeah.
Who will be the judge?
Nobody.
Except God. And he has to be trusted. The person who says, I have become a Muslim, he has to be trusted. And in this attitude, Rasulullah was so firm that not once in his life it happened. And somebody said that I'm a Muslim, but the circumstances, through suspicion on the case, created doubts. He would not go for the suspicion and doubts. He would accept the person's own commitment to Islam as the only valid means of accepting. Only valid thing to be accepted. Correct?
Indeed.
So this is the situation which has to be understood very clearly. Otherwise, the allegations against Islam that it has spread through sword will continue to be spread all over the world. But Islam does not tell you to use sword for the spread of message. On the contrary, the Holy Quran is very clear that when sword is used to change your heart and your views and your doctrines, then you better be killed than surrender to this pressure. So this is the real teaching. What Islam does not like for in its own case, it does not like in other cases as well.
Yeah.
The Holy Quran is full of this and give reference to the entire history of prophethood and says swords have always been raised to change the faith of people, and Allah does not permit sword to win. The faith must win, and the body may be destroyed. After this, there is no room for any allegation against Islam using sword for the spreading of its message. Correct?
My question then.
About that woman.
This was just a compliment to what the question that was my own question.
I am not interested in saying anything about that woman and her past and things.
No, this is a different, from the beginning.
First of all, I have not read the whole case. I'll have to, if I give my opinion, before that I must read both sides well.
This is a different question, Hazul.
Acha, will you wait for your third turn? That is a different question. Please.
The cloning of sheep has taken place, and they're talking about the cloning of human beings.
I've already spoken on the question of cloning repeatedly in this English-speaking session.
I'm sorry.
Previously. Huh?
Yes, thank you.
So we've been joined by Bashir Adrabio from Nigeria, and I would now request him to put forward his question.
Bashir's introduction, please.
Hazur, I would request him to introduce himself, please.
Assalamu alaikum.
Please be seated, yes.
My name is Bashir. I am
Bashiru?
Bashir, yeah. Bashir.
Normally, Africans add a vowel at the end of the consonants which are silent. So it should be Bashiru.
Huzuru, this one I'll come in. It's not all of us.
But many do.
You know, the Orthodox Muslims in particular
do that.
But the Ahmadi Muslims.
Oh, that I know, of course. So you are Bashir.
Yes, I'm Bashir. I'm originally from Nigeria. I used to live in Italy. I have met there so a couple of times.
In Italy?
Yes, yeah.
We have been in correspondence?
Sorry?
Have we been in correspondence with each other?
Yes.
That's right, I think so, yes.
Yes, yes.
Now please tell me now, what's the problem?
All right.
What the problem is?
Hazur, I please want you to explain to me, to us in general, what is the significance of dreams?
Significance of dreams?
Yes, sir.
It's a small question requiring a very large answer. The significance of dreams is many-folded and multiple. To begin with, let me quote the case of ordinary dreams. Basically, the dreams are born out of psychic experiences or suppressions, etc., etc. What I mean by psychic expressions or suppressed psychic experiences, it relates to ordinary life all over the world. Many a time a person sees a thing which he does not like, against which he cannot express verbally his dislike or aversion, against which he cannot express his aversion or dislike verbally. He keeps quiet, but keeps burning within. Then after a while he forgets about it. This incident is the case of a suppressed psychic experience. His soul, his psyche, does not approve of something. Yet he is compelled to suppress that. It is very possible that even after 10 or 20 years, a thing may happen to the person which would tickle the memory, which would stir the memory of the past unconsciously, without his taking note of it. Anything else happens and he goes to sleep, and the same old incident comes to surface and forms a dream. So such dreams could be the effect of such incidents which happened long before in your past, and maybe a day-to-day experience. Every day when you sleep, after seeing things which you don't like or seeing things which you like, it is possible for you to go into dreams. And those things you think have been forgotten and done with, they are not forgotten and done with. You ruminate like a cow does. Whenever a cow eats her fodder, she ruminates, she brings it up again and again and again and ruminates. Similarly, human mind ruminates certain things which occur daily. I think perhaps all the things which he does during his conscious life in a day are brought back, thrown up during his sleep. Now, you may say that it is not possible because seldom do we see dreams. One may say that I don't see any dreams at all. So how can it be possible? I tell such people that everybody sees dreams constantly. Only he does not remember them. Only those dreams are remembered which occur during rapid eye movement. Now that's a different phenomenon of which I have spoken earlier, but you should know this, that every person who goes to sleep constantly dreams, And whatever he dreams is most often related to the matters of the day which he has spent. And then the rumination goes on and on and on. And in a new developed form, finally approved of his mind, that's the whole thing sinks into the subconscious again. And a new day begins. So many a time, it's so perfect a record of things that many a time later, when he goes through a similar situation, the mind would search, the computer of the mind would search for the similar things in the past, and whatever had been kept recorded within the memory would come up. So this is the normal phenomenon of dreams, right? Now, religious phenomenon. I believe that religious phenomenon uses the same apparatus, not a different apparatus. Like your mind combines this thing and that thing and makes it into a whole story, but without a message. The religious phenomenon requires God to interfere and influence the mind of a sleeping person and deliver his message through his psychic apparatus. He does not have to deliver the message aloud, because in dreams you do not hear any sounds from outside. And your wife sleeping next to you, anybody else who is sleeping in the same room will not hear any voice. So dreams is a phenomenon which is quiet and silent phenomenon, which is controlled by Allah in a manner that the second person lying next to you will not hear anything. So this apparatus works in the hand of Allah in that case. But how can you say this is a divine dream? I mean, a dream created by God, or an ordinary dream? The signs are so different that there is no room for any doubt or suspicion left at all. The dream which is shown by God carries its own significance and signs which separate it from other possible dreams. First of all, the dream created by God has a cryptic language very often, which the dreamer does not understand. And those who understand dreams, when they interpret such dreams, the proof that the interpretation was right, the proof that it was a divine dream, comes in later, appears later, sometimes many years after the dream has been seen. And that external evidence, which is not the creation of the dreamer at all, proves that it had to be a divine dream. So there is no question of anybody saying, yes, I see so many divine dreams. People do write to me. I say, don't forget about them. They're not divine dreams. You think you're a very pious man, and so you go on dreaming holy things about yourself. I quote the example of Pharaoh of the time of Joseph, Prophet Joseph al-Islam. He sees a dream which he simply does not understand. The cryptic language used in the dream is so confusing for him and for the courtiers that they tell him it's just rubbish, it's just a psychic experience you have gone through. But he is bothered. He knows it is not an ordinary psychic experience at all. He knows that the scene which he has seen, the vision in the dream, is not born out of his ordinary thinking. So when Joseph is discovered by him to be able to read dreams, he sends a messenger to him and he requires from him what is the meaning of this dream. He interprets that dream in a manner over which the Pharaoh had no command, he had no influence to create things which, according to dream, should have happened after the dream was seen. He had no command over the climatic changes. He had no command over the rain or droughts of the country. Absolutely, he had nothing to do with that. He had only the command over the laws of the land and what happened on earth according to the laws of the land. The dream said, as Joseph interpreted, the dream meant that there will be a year of 7 years of extremely good crop. For that whole period of the 7 years, you must save a portion of that crop for the years which are to follow. Now, the extra crop had to be preserved or saved for 7 continuous years, because the need which was to follow would be too big for a single year to cater for. Then they would follow 7 years of drought. Now, which Pharaoh had control over such things? No Pharaoh could have. The Pharaoh of Joseph was no exemption. First of all, let me incidentally tell you that it was not a Pharaoh. It was a Malik, because the term Pharaoh applied to the old Egyptian dynasties, and that dynasty which was in power during those days in Egypt had come from Syria, from Iran or Persia or Iraq, I don't remember which, perhaps Iraq, northern Iraq. So this dynasty had nothing to do with the dynasty of pharaohs. But I am referring to him as Pharaoh because generally people do that. So that Malik or that king saw this dream, he did not understand the language, it was interpreted, and the subsequent events proved that it was correctly interpreted. No man had any access to such events of the future. Whatever happened later on, it's a long story. But the message is that neither Joseph had any influence over the subsequent events nor the king had. So whoever foretold of these things had to be omniscient, knowledgeable. And that is what God is, according to the religious people. So you see, the dreams are ordinarily the phenomena of human psyche, but when it is commanded by God, taken over by God, then definite messages are delivered. It's not just a vain thing without any result, without any common sense. God always shows dreams which are meaningful, never meaningless dreams. And the proof lies in the events to follow, not in your own impression. You understand?
You mentioned that no man has access to know what is to happen in the future.
Yes.
But my own personal experience as well, when I was a child, I have had a lot of dreams which I don't give any importance to.
What you are proving to me is that they are divine dreams.
No, I have not at all as well.
Why not? Because you are not God all-knowing. If your dreams are proved right by the future events, then it has to be, they have to be taken as dreams shown by God.
But honestly, Azur, or like, for instance, as I am sitting down in this gathering today, maybe 10 years ago, when I haven't known you at all, I haven't met with you at all.
Yes.
Maybe before you became the Caliph, I have like dreamt that and saw this sitting.
Yes.
Just like that. And
you see,
when it happens, it is when it comes to true that I will realize I have seen this sitting before. But I've said, no, I probably must have dreamt of it. I'm not saying they are divine dreams. I have never
Why
seen.
not?
I have never seen myself as seeing any divine dream.
Just a minute, I'll explain that. There is no question of being over modest. You're talking of facts, and those facts, the facts you're talking about, can be interpreted differently. They do not always indicate the piety of a person. I refer to such experiences as sprinkling of evidence by Allah here and there, but He knows best who would benefit from this. So the piety here in this context is not the holiness. The piety means that your attitude towards truth is liked by Allah. And whenever He sprinkles such experiences, He expects you to be rightly guided. That's all there is to it. So you may have these experiences without any purpose. For instance, in the science of parapsychology, you come across many people who say that after 10 years they suddenly see a thing or face a situation and remember that they had known it for a very long time. But to what purpose? Those experiences, I have read them extensively, do not leave a message at all. They are just psychic impressions. They do not have any impression on the life of the person who goes through such experiences to turn him a better person. So these experiences are psychic, without a message. But the experiences which are created by Allah, they have a purpose and a message, and when you see it fulfilled, then you know that your life is influenced because of that. Then you realize that your faith in God has been re-strengthened because of the fulfillment of your past experiences. So there are definite differences between the two events, but you have to minutely study them and analyze them in a manner, as I am trying to do that to you, whereby you do not always think that because you are a holy man you saw this. Because God was kind, this can be interpreted as because God was so kind on you, maybe because of your inner truth, that He wanted you to be led by the dreams shown by God. Clear?
Yes.
Good.
Please, Huzul, just one thing more. For instance, I just want to have an idea.
No, the sort of experience you said about me sitting here and things,
yes,
such experiences are shared by many people all over the world, but they did the right course of writing this to the Jamaat, the center, or their Amir in their own country, so that when it came to pass that evidence, written evidence, would be shown to the world that is such and such person had been shown by God that this would happen. But you kept quiet about it.
Because I didn't think it's
so it's good for you, but it cannot be utilized now for the sake of the rest of the Jamaat.
No, that's not my aim.
No, another question, please.
Yes.
Now, is it a second question?
Sorry?
Is it your third question? You're going to ask?
My second or third, probably.
But
It's still on the same thing, Azul.
of course,
Please.
about one thing there could be 100 questions.
Okay,
So let's stop for a while. Stop here. Give them chance, please.
It is reported that the Holy Prophet says that somebody who has fasted 30 days in Ramadan and goes on to fast 6 days in Shawwal, Allah will multiply that by 10 and the person gets a 1 year blessing.
You see, Allah does not have to multiply the time. Literally. It means that you would get your reward much more than you think it's due. That's all. Because sometimes you multiply by 70, sometimes, according to the Quran, it can be multiplied by any number. So it's Allah's decision how to reward you and how much to reward you.
And the fast, is it supposed to be immediately after Eid or just within the month?
Immediately after Eid.
Yes, sir. My question is about the Eid celebration. The last Eid celebration. I had a phone call from Ghana from a friend of mine who recently converted from non-Ahmadi to Ahmadi. And he was telling me that they were to celebrate their Eid the day before we celebrated ours. And
So the Eid has to be celebrated on different days according to Islamic system, and it does not make the slightest difference if Eid celebration happens to occur during a certain date in Ghana, which is not shared by people of England, and the Eid celebrations are held a day prior or a day after that. This is common because it's related to the appearance of moon. Appearance of crescent.
yes, yes, I didn't finish my question, please. That is what he was stressing. He was telling me that they have seen the moon. He said we have
So
seen
they
the
should
moon.
have celebrated the Eid.
No, he said they have seen the moon there. So why are you going to fast for another day before?
No, you have no right to do that. No right whatsoever.
No, but we didn't see the moon here that day. You know,
I'm
so-
not talking, this is what I explained. I have already answered your question
Yeah.
why it was yet unfinished. I have told you that the Eid celebration is related by the Quran to the sighting of moon, which is the first crescent. Whenever you can sight the moon, or whenever you do sight the moon, then you must end the Ramadan and say your Eid celebration. The problem sometimes occurs that some people begin the Ramadan too late. For instance, the Ramadan is of 29 days, and you make the difference of 1 day, you delay it by 1 day because of the overcast sky, and you miss sighting of the crescent. So you will be left with only 28 days. Understand? It was because of your mistake, but you can't help it. The night before Eid, if you sight the moon, then you are left with no right whatsoever to continue with your Ramadan. Got it?
Yes, correct.
Thank
But we had a
No, you didn't have this.
I'm studying history at my college as well as becoming a teacher and English literature. About 3 years ago, I studied about the Crusades and the events that occurred before around that time. And one of the events that occurred was the what Westerners regarded the attack by Muhammad on Mecca.
Yes.
You mentioned earlier on that you should not use the sword to spread religion.
That's
Could you interpret what exactly what happened? Why that event took place?
When the Meccans,
Well, Mecca and the spread.
if
We
the
regard that as a
Meccans
military-
gave cause, provided the cause for invasion of Mecca to Muhammad Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam by violating the treaty which had been established between them.
This is something we don't know about. It's but
Yeah, that's right. Yes.
Yes.
There was a treaty signed between Rasulullah Sallam and the Meccans, and that treaty was violated by Meccans. So Rasulullah Sallam had every right to invade Mecca after that. But when he did not convert a single person to Islam by conquering Mecca.
So that is the incorrect thing we
That's
get
right.
from Western
This
history,
is
that it was
propagated.
spread by the sword.
Right.
Obviously,
What actually happened was that he said, these are the things, if you do this, then no one from among the Muslim camp will murder you, will kill you. One, if you say you are Muslim, no one has a right. If you don't want to become Muslim, then gather around the flag of Bilal or shut your door and keep away from going out into the streets. And do not bother the Muslims who are invading, who are frequenting the streets of Mecca after the conquest. So they did not have necessary to convert to Islam. If they did not want to, it was their free choice. So because these things happened simultaneously, that if you are convinced, you may declare it, and many did declare that Islam is true. And there are so many more who did not. So the question is absolutely out of question.
Excellent.
See?
Thank you.
And those who did not subscribe to the truth of Islam before this invasion, they did it to prove that the question should not work in religion, because they did it out of fear of the Meccans. Throughout, they had been in their hearts convinced of the truth of Islam, but out of the fear of Meccans, they did not declare it. When Muslims had entered Mecca and there was no such fear to be entertained later on, why shouldn't have they declared? So none of them gave raised this point that we are converting to save our lives, because they would save their lives anyway, right?
It's just that this is a misconception we have in Western history books,
That's
that it
right.
was an invasion.
I know this.
So it's
what
nice
they
to
do
hear
it
the other
now.
side. Thank you very much.
Please.
That brings us almost to the last question now.
Uh-huh.
Possibly it's only a few seconds left.
Uh-huh.
So that will be the last question.
His
which
question
is going
cannot be finished in a few seconds.
Hazu can read me easy. Spiritually.
One important question.
Huh?
I say I have another question.
What
It's
question?
important, Hazu, is a current issue about an Ahmadi, breaking the contract, with a brother Ahmadi.
Yes.
And this Ahmadi is a prominent member, and the affairs seems like robbing Peter to pay Paul. I like to see if the person who is cheated is fed up, if he is right to take the matter from outside the Jummah.
This is a matter to be decided by the courts or by the Jamaat organization.
The Jamaat courts have had
And
the
I
case
can't
for a year
answer
now.
this question in generalities. The only principle I can remind you of is that take the matter to the court,
Outside court.
or to members of the Jamaat of your choice and of the choice of the other party. If both agree, then this is also possible. Or you can take to the Qaza, which is Jamaat Ahmadiyya courts. So these are three possible options for you.
All right. In other words, Hazu, I should use my discretion at the time.
After 2 minutes have gone over. So as you can use your discretion, I can also use my discretion. So
Thank you,
that's all
Hazu.
today. I'm sorry that we already overspent the time.
Thank you.
Assalamu alaikum.
Mashallah.